Cool. There we go. That's one part. And then, dun, 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 dun. Hold on one second. That little thing that says AI companion. Oh, no.
Yes, got
Yes.
it.
Yes. Cool. All right. Meeting in all invitees. Okay, cool. All right, done. Yay. Okay, now back to share. All right. So we've been focusing on, get out of there. We've been focusing on reframing. And the first thing that we had done as our assignment was to focus on these two examples of reframing, positive and negative examples of these words. So this was an exercise for you to understand that not everybody has the same meaning for words that you do. So, for example, when we hear the word success, for a lot of people, that is um, a positive attribute or a positive meaning that goes along with the word success. But for some people, it's not. And in New Zealand, we have this concept, which I find incredibly strange, called the tall poppy syndrome. And the tall poppy syndrome is that New Zealanders love to sort of beat down anybody who's successful.
Eh?
So it's almost the exact opposite of being in Asia. Whereas in Asia, where you want to be the number one in your class, that's actually frowned upon in this country. Like being average is really important.
In New
So
Zealand?
yeah, being average is super important. And so what the thing about it is you're never, they actually even had a radio show, like on the radio, where people would call in and dob in their neighbors and basically talk about their neighbors and talk about, oh, who does he think he is? He bought a brand new BMW. He's blah, blah. And they would say things like this. Like, oh, this guy thinks he's so great because he's got a second story on his house, and I'm gonna complain to the council about this and blah 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 blah, just so he has to stop building, right? So they do shit like this all the freaking time. And
Oh.
to the point that one of my the guys that I was working with, he actually wrote a blog post about when you become successful, don't buy a BMW because it makes you look bad to everybody else. And
Mhm.
and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And that was
God.
his literally business consultant advice. And I was like, wow, seriously, people. So this is a normal thing in where success is not a positive meaning in this country. So I play golf, and you the winner of the golf match is rewarded, right? But then they have to create all sorts of other awards for people who can't win, who are
Mhm.
really lousy at golf. So they create all sorts of other awards. So one of those awards is the closest person when they do their drive off of the tee box, the closest to the middle of the fairway. Okay, which makes sense. It's like what's the straightest drive? But then they choose a drive, a fairway that has lots of holes and hills on it. So if your ball goes straight and it lands, it will bounce left or right. So it's completely random who wins. Because your ball could have bounced on the right or fallen on the right and then bounced into the middle, and then you win. But if you landed on the middle, you would probably not stay in the middle. And so they're actually rewarding people for like complete randomness, like complete chance things. And then the majority of the prizes are for lucky draw. So here's the person who won. Here's the person who had that random shot down the center. Oh, and the rest of the prizes go to you random people who just showed up. So it's not there's no, it's a competition, but not really a competition because the majority of the prizes go to just because you're there and you bought a raffle ticket. It's funny. It is absolutely hysterical. So success in New Zealand has a very different meaning than it has in anywhere else in the world. And it's negative. It's negative. And so when we looked at this, we looked at a couple of things. So you guys did your own homework on this. And I'm just pulling up a document for myself. So success, negative. So one of the things that can be is something like show off. Mm-hmm. Or this thing we call tall poppy syndrome. So in the United States, if you were a really good student, right, we call you a brown noser because of the fact that you were so close to your teacher that your nose was kind of up their behind. So it was brown, right? And so that's what we would call it. But so we would make fun of people who were successful, but in America, it was really important to be successful, even if you got bad things said about you. Okay, so those are when I started with the Toastmasters group here, the feedback that I got on one of my speeches was, you know, Lindley, you're just a little too good. And I was like, I'm not quite sure how to take that, right? Because isn't being good good? Because with the way you're saying it, it's bad. It's bad to be good. It's like bad to be. So that's this, that when we're successful, that's the negative meaning of success. Okay. Then we have a more neutral meaning is somebody has a favorable outcome, or they have an outcome, or they have achieved something. So we're trying to make it super neutral versus a victory or a triumph. Other words that you guys use, let me, fulfillment, right? Having that kind of positiveness to the success. Winner, right? Those are more positive kinds of things. Then we have assertive, the other word. So we have negative, which is really easy because lots of people believe that assertive people are negative. And so it's really easy to go pushy, domineering, commanding, words like aggressive, right? It's really easy for us to use words like that, whereas it's not so easy to use positive words about assertiveness, like being confident or determined or firm, or things like self-assured, self-confident sometimes. So it's important to understand that everybody has a different meaning to a word. So somebody could say to you, oh, you're really successful. That's not a positive thing that they're saying just because of how the tone of their voice comes out. Or they can say, oh, wow, you're so assertive. Now that could be a positive thing because of, again, their tone of voice and how they say it. But somebody else could say you're assertive and mean that you're not a nice person. Oh, gosh, you're so assertive, right? And that could be a negative thing. So this is why we learned reframing to begin with, is when somebody gives us that kind of negative feedback to us, that we have something to do with it. And we did this exercise where we have all of these different words and different phrases that we can say. I believe this. I guess your aim is this. Consequences of that belief is this. And we used an example on your homework about breaking your arm. So this was an actual example from my own life where somebody came up to me and said that, oh, you broke your arm. It's going to hurt for a year. So that's what you need to understand is it's this person's opinion about that. It's not what I believe. It's their opinion. And so, oh, so you believe my arm's going to hurt for a year? I believe it's already healing and it hardly hurts at all. I guess your aim in telling me that it's going to hurt for a year is so that I protect my arm. Oh, that was so nice of you for you to say that and think of me in that way. We need to make sure, though, when we use these, that we're not actually agreeing that just because our arm broke means it's going to hurt. So, for example, in Stacy's one, she says, I guess your aim is to prepare me to have realistic expectations about the recovery process, right? But realistic expectations means that I am agreeing with her that it's going to take a year, and I don't want to agree with her. So, Stacy, how could you say it and not agree with her? I guess your aim is to.
Mm, I guess your aim is to tell me about your own experience.
Right. I guess your aim is to tell me about your own experience in breaking something of yours. And if that person then goes, oh, no, I've never broken a bone, then they kind of realize what they're talking about is ridiculous, right? Because they
Then
don't
fuck
know.
off.
Right? They don't know, right? And so that's kind of one of those things that we could do straight away. I guess your aim is like I already sent Jolene's feedback to her. So I guess your aim is to let me know that my injury is serious and it's going to take a long time to heal. So instead of saying it's going to take a long time to heal, all we can say is, I guess your aim is to let me know that the injury is serious. Oh, thanks so much for letting me know that. So again, we didn't agree with the second part of it that says it's going to hurt for a year. And the reason that I don't want you guys to do that is because unconsciously, if you agree, it will hurt for a year because you've just told your brain that. And it's your unconscious mind that controls pain. So you might well think about not agreeing with somebody's stupid statement about it hurting for a year, because then, like literally a year later, and it's still like aching or something like that, you're going to go, oh, yeah, that person said it would hurt for a year. They were right. But you had agreed originally. And your brain's like, oh, yep, it's going to hurt for a year. I can do that. I can make it hurt for a year. Easy. So your brain can do it. So the next one was a consequence that we see in the belief. A consequence that I see in the belief is Jolene's example. I may require physical therapy or physiotherapy or additional treatment to speed up my recovery. Great. A consequence is, and that belief is now I have to pay more money. So I don't want to have that belief because then I have to pay more for money to get it. A consequence in that belief, Stacy's example, I might really take 1 year to recover instead of having a fast recovery. There you go. Consequences is that if I believe that, it's going to take me longer to recover. So I don't want to believe that. Okay. For me, X doesn't mean Y, it means something else. So when we say you broke your arm equals it's going to take a long time to recover, a year to recover. So Stacy's example is, for me, it's a rest period for my arm and I will recover soon, right? So it's me breaking my arm doesn't mean that it's going to hurt for a year. It means that it's a rest period for me. That's a great example, okay? For me, breaking my arm, Jolene's example, is giving me opportunities to find ways of strengthening my arms. Perfect, right? These are really, really good examples. To me, what's more important is Jolene's example, how to take care of my arm and strengthen it in a way to prevent other strain and injury. Excellent. It's more important to focus on what I can do rather than what's going to hurt. Stacy's example, to me, what's more important is focusing on my recovery. Follow medical advice and also doing things that I liked before, that I always do, right? Those are the things that are more important than worrying about whether it's going to hurt for a year. This one, I wonder if there's ever been a time. I wonder if there's been a time where somebody broke their arm and it didn't hurt. So it's all we're doing is posing a silly little question. Oh, gee, I wonder if somebody ever broke their arm and it didn't hurt for a year. I wonder if that's ever happened. So I'm not telling the person that they're wrong. I'm just asking what else is possible. Has there ever been a time this happened? And then the next one, also really simple. I'm not clear. How does breaking my arm automatically mean it's going to hurt for a year? How does this equal this? That's it. And then the last one, I wonder how you would know if it wasn't true. How would you know it wasn't true that my arm would hurt for a year? And the person in this particular example could not say anything other than, by the way, I don't know if your arm hurts or not, because it's not my arm. Right. So it allows them to go back to what they're really thinking about. Okay. And then you guys had your own examples of things that you had. Stacey, I will send you the follow-up to yours as well, because I've already done Jolene's.
Okay.
So in this, it's important to understand where we are and bring you back to a couple of things so that I can give you some information about the second part of it. Okay, the second part of dealing with communication and dealing with other people's stuff. This is really important for you guys going forward. So the first is that we need to remember that we have lots of information all around us that we can see, our visual sense, auditory, A, are things that we can hear, K, kinesthetic, things that we can feel or touch. Those are also emotions, things that we can smell, olfactory, and things that we taste, gustatory. All of these things and information come in from the outside world. We cannot process them all, so our brain naturally generalizes and deletes and distorts that information. So this is what we call our map of the world, our map of reality, our own mental programs. So these are filters. How your brain filters information from all the stuff around you is different than everybody else's. Just like people in New Zealand filtering the meaning of the word success as something negative versus people in Asia filtering it as something positive. That's a mental program of how they do that. And so that's their map of the world, their reality. And their reality gives them an internal representation, an image in their head. So before, when Rainey was working with us on fears, Rainey was having us change that internal representation in our head and imagine things in better ways rather than imagining things in bad ways. That's that internal representation. And that internal representation then changes to our state. So our state is the way we are, our way of being at any given moment. So it is our thoughts, it is our emotions, and it is also our physiology, how we move our body, how we are in our body. And then that then becomes our behavior. And our behavior is ultimately what people see and hear, what we say and what we do. So when we take all of that and we put it into communication, we need to understand that there are two sides of this communication process. So first, we have a thought process. We want to say something to somebody. And we have to understand that that filtering process is happening. And we then create a message that we're going to send to somebody else, but it's gone through our filters before we send it. And then that message gets to the other person. They hear that message, but it goes through their filters before they actually have that message for themselves. Does everybody understand that process? So it starts with a message, then a filter, or it starts with something we're thinking about sending as a message. It goes through our filter of what reality is to us, all of our mental programs. Then that message gets delivered, goes through their filters, and then they have an understanding of what that message is. Okay? Now, as you can probably get a clear understanding is that because of these two sets of filters, communication is really hard. It's really hard to do something that is we're trying to communicate something when there's so many filters. A good example of this is Jolene's example that she gave during her reframing. So her brother wants her to have the maid pick up the mother, put the mother into the train stations, change trains, and get that mother to a doctor's appointment. Where another possibility is him driving and picking up the mother and taking her to that appointment. And so the thing about it is his filter says, his mental programs and his filter says, this isn't a problem. And when that message of what he wants to do gets to Jolene, she filters it through her stuff and she says, oh, no, this is the problem. Right? And so that's an important thing to understand is that all of a sudden we're in a situation where somebody has given us something, like negative stuff that we could reframe, or a problem situation that we need to do something with. So in this communication model, when we're communicating, there are 4 places that we can go in communication. Okay? Hold on one second. All right. So 4 places we can go. I can communicate something with someone, and I can say, hey, can you do the dishes for me? I'm busy. And that person can go, yep, no problem. I'll do the dishes. And so that falls into the no problem category, right? Where we're having a communication, we're doing something, we've asked somebody for some help, or we're doing something. Jolene says, hey, can you take mom to the doctor's appointment? And she's, and he says, yep, no problem. I'll come over and pick her up. No problem. We're in the no problem world. Okay. Then we have a situation where another person owns a problem. So Jolene says, can you come and pick up mom and take her to her doctor appointment? And the other person says, I own a problem. And instead of saying, I own a problem to Jolene, what Jolene hears is, no, you have to do this thing with your maid and get your maid to take her. Okay? And that's what Jolene hears. And when, in this particular example, when that happens, all of a sudden, Jolene's the one who owns the problem. Jolene now has a problem because her brother has communicated something to her, and now she's upset about that. So when we talk about somebody owning a problem, I'm not saying who's at fault. I'm saying who's upset. Okay? Not the person who's at fault, but the person who's upset. So for example, if I'm in a restaurant and somebody accidentally pours water on me in a restaurant, the person who owns the problem is me, because I'm upset that I have water spilled on me, not the person who's at fault for spilling the water. Does everybody get that? Cool. So let me try an example about problem ownership, and let's see. Okay. So Stacy, a staff member comes to work late on a consistent basis. Who owns the problem?
Both of us.
Okay. What is that person upset about? The person who's late every day.
The person who come late every day.
Yep.
Maybe
What
just
are they?
don't like. Maybe just don't like the corporate structure. Doesn't like reporting. Doesn't see the need to come early.
Right. But are they upset about it?
Maybe not.
Right. Maybe not. Right. So in that example, you might be the only person who owns the problem. Right. Again, not the person to blame, not the person whose fault it is, but the person who's upset. Okay, Jolene, you get one as well. So in this example, the example is your child comes to you and is really upset because they're trying to do something at school, and their friends are teasing them at school, and they need to have a solution to that problem. So they don't want to go to school anymore because their friends keep teasing them. Take your thing off mute before you answer.
So who owns the problem?
Yeah, who owns the problem?
Uh, my child.
Yes, correct. Now, most parents have a really bad issue with this particular one, because when a child brings you a problem, you want to take ownership of that problem and solve the problem yourself. And this is the number one thing that parents cannot do. You cannot, it's not your problem. You're not the person who's upset. So when we're doing that, we're going to use different skills. So each one of these boxes represents a different skill as well as a different problem. So obviously no problem, that's a skill. It's called rapport. We want to build rapport with people when there aren't problems. When another person owns a problem, we want to be able to coach that person. So we're not going to talk about that because it's not part of the let's build self-confidence thing. The part we're going to talk about, though, is the I own the problem thing. So when we own the problem, we need to have problem solution orientated skills to be able to solve that problem. So when we're with a child or things like that, we want to be able to help them without taking ownership of their problems. Because when we're the ones who take ownership of the problem and we're like, oh, no, small child, you forgot to get something for your class, I'm going to go and fix it for you. The child doesn't learn the process of being responsible for their own stuff. So I would want my child hurting a bit. The hurt of embarrassment for not having it the next day when they go to school, the hurt for forgetting their socks and getting blisters, the hurt for whatever. If those things, those little hurts are there, the child will most likely not forget the next time. Now, if the child keeps having somebody solve the problem, Mom, I forgot my lunch. Mom, I forgot this. Mom, I forgot that. And mom always has to go and solve the problem for the child, then the child never learns to do it themselves. Okay, that's really important. So an example of this is when I had a friend of mine, and she was getting really tired of the fact that when people lost things in the house, she was the person who was always responsible for finding them. Mom, where's my fill in the blank? Mom, where's my gym bag? Mom, where's my math book? Mom, where's my fill in the blank, right? From her husband and from her two kids. And so she decided to start imposing a fine for every time there was a Mom, where's my problem? So if you wanted to pay mom to solve your problem for you, then that's great. So originally, the charge was just $1. It was $1 for mom to solve your problem. And then she realized that $1 was not enough, that people were just paying for $1 for her time, and she would still have to go and do it. So she decided to raise it to $5. And so then people had to think, is it really worth $5 to have mom solve my problem for me? And so what happened was she went through this entire process, and her children started taking responsibility for their own shit. They stopped leaving stuff around the house. They started keeping track of all of their stuff, and that allowed her, freed up time for her, but allowed them to gain a huge amount of skills because they had to be able to do that when they went off to university anyway. So they started washing their own clothes. They started folding their own clothes. They started putting their own clothes away because of the fact that They needed to know where everything was. Okay. So very, very cool little trick. Now, what we're going to focus on here is the I own the problem. So we're in a situation where somebody has brought stuff to us and we don't like what they brought to us, whatever that is. And then obviously the last one that we can have is both of us own a problem. So Jolene's situation that she has with her brother ended up being both of them have a problem. Mom needs to get to the appointment and he has a problem. He doesn't want to drive. And Jolene has a problem. She doesn't want to send the maid. Okay. So that's called a conflict resolution. So what we're going to do though, first we're going to go, I own the problem. We're going to look at the I own the problem thing. So the important part of owning a problem, you're upset about something, is that somebody has said something to you, and there's a couple of things that we want to have happen. Number one, we need something to change. So it might be somebody's behavior, it might be something that they've said to us, but we need something to change. Then we also want that change to be permanent, i.e., if a similar circumstance comes up in the future, we don't want to have to do this again. So we want the change to be permanent. And the other thing that we want is that we still want this person in our lives and we don't want them mad at us. So this is an important aspect, right? Because if I didn't care about that person being in my life, I might not deliver this message. I might just not have the person in my life, right? So Rainey had talked earlier in the course about people that are positive influences on our lives and people that are negative influences on our lives, and right, the ones that we need to increase time with and ones that we need to decrease time with. So maybe that's a person I'm decreasing time with, and I'm not really concerned, and so therefore I'm lowering my upsetness, and so therefore I'm not the one who owns the problem because I don't want the person in my life anyway. Okay. So normally when something happens, that there's a behavior that somebody has, that they're doing something and we're going to tell them what they're doing wrong, right? So for example, in Jolene's example, you're being selfish to her brother. You're being selfish, not taking care of mom, right? Not considering other people, only yourself. Right? So that would be something we could say to somebody when we think that they're doing something wrong. In the earlier example, we talked with Stacy about somebody in her work situation showing up late repeatedly. You're showing up late. You're late. We're going to dismiss you if you're late. So that's telling them what they're doing wrong. Okay? So that's normally what we do. What we want to do is we want to do it differently and more effectively by giving them a message without being aggressive. We want to be able to articulate, we own a problem, we've got an issue, but we don't want them to feel that we're being assertive or nasty or anything like that. Okay? All right. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to craft a message and deliver it to that person. And the message is going to look like this. Okay? When a sensory specific behavior happens, the result is there's a concrete effect and I feel something. Okay? So that's our formula that we're going to use. Now I'm going to break apart the little pieces of the formula. What? Yep.
Lindy, are you sharing screen? Is
Oh,
there a slide? Because I'm not seeing the slide.
you're not seeing the slide.
I'm not
Rainey
seeing
sees
the
the
slide. Oh
slide.
dear.
I'm
That's
seeing
fine.
the slide.
Oh, that means maybe my
Stacy?
setting.
Stacy?
At the top, it should say, what is it?
D.
It's like message or the participants and then the screen. Hold on, I'll stop sharing for a second.
Oh, it's okay. Never mind. I check my own setting. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you see all of us now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to share the screen again and let's see if it fixes itself.
Oh, yes, now I can see.
Okay, awesome, great. Okay,
Sorry. Thank you.
no worries. Okay, so when sensory specific behavior happens, right? Oh, so did you see this one, Jolene? Okay, so those are our four things. So no problem. Other person owns a problem. I own a problem. Both of us own a problem. Okay, those are our four things. And did you see this one?
No, just I
No,
realized.
okay. Okay. So that's what I mean by the communication, right? So we have a thought, we're going to communicate it. We have some filters, we have a message, we deliver our message, but then it's filtered again and the people receive it. Okay, cool.
Okay,
All right, so back here, sensory specific behavior. So what do I mean by sensory specific behavior? This is a really important one. And unfortunately, normally in situations, I demonstrate what it is. But instead of demonstrating, we're going to come up with a situation, okay? So in Jolene's situation where her brother has, well, no, let's use a different situation because I think it's more important to use a different situation. I'm trying to think of something that is general. What's happened in the news recently in Singapore?
Flood.
What?
Bukit Timah flood.
There's a Bukit Timah flood.
Yeah.
Again.
because of the rain, monsoon surge.
It's been raining for like a week.
Good.
Non-stop.
Man, they haven't fixed that problem yet. Because I remember when I was there, that freaking Bukit Timah flooded all the
It
time.
happened again.
All right. So Bukit Timah floods, and I'm sure that people are blaming somebody on the Bukit Timah floods.
Yeah. We pay the government we pay the minister so much money. They should solve. They should be able to. They should have solved this problem. Something along that.
Right. Yeah. So the minister. Yeah. So minister, you should have solved this problem. We paid you so much money. You make so much money as a minister, and you haven't solved the problem yet. Right. So what we want to be able to do is we want to use a sensory specific behavior or sensory specific thing. So what specifically happened with the flood? So Jolene, what specifically happened with the flood?
What happened with the flood? You mean the impact?
No, not so much the impact, but how would you describe the flood itself?
Oh, just flooding.
Yeah, but describe what did it look like?
Oh, okay. A lot of the roads are blocked. The
Yep.
water level go to knee level.
Yep.
That seriousness. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, so what she's saying is the water level was knee level. Okay.
Mm.
Is that something that we can see?
Yes.
Yep, we can see that, right?
Mm.
And then you said a lot of the roads were blocked. Yep, we can see that too, right?
Yes.
So the only thing that is not sensory specific in there is the word a lot. How much is a lot? Right? So do we know how many roads were blocked?
From the news, I only see the big canal and the main road.
Right. So
I'm
the
not
big
exactly sure.
canal, the big canal and the main road of Bukit Timah were both blocked with water.
Yeah.
And the water at a certain point in Bukit Timah was up to the knee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all of that is sensory specific information, and nobody can argue with it because that actually did happen. Now, if the person said something else, for example, oh my God, the water was so bad, the flooding was so bad that nobody could get anywhere in Singapore because the flooding was so bad it affected all of the parts of Singapore all over. Now, is that sensory specific?
Not exactly.
Right. So we want to be able to say something to somebody where they're not going to sit there and think to themselves, they're exaggerating. That's not true. That they made that up or anything else. right? We want them to hear what we've said, and we want to say, oh, actually that happened. So I gave this message to my husband. He's on the phone with a bank. And I said, when you ask the bank to open a new bank account in your business account that I don't have access to, I feel upset.
He did that. How
Right?
did you know?
He was on the phone with
He
them,
did.
asking to open a new account with the business, right? And so he can't argue with any of what I said, right? I said, when you ask the bank, he just did, I want to open a new account in a business account, yep, that I don't have access to. Correct. She doesn't have access to. He can't disagree with any single one of those things. Okay?
Yeah.
When that happens, I feel upset. Now, there isn't so much a concrete effect. The concrete effect I did describe later to him, but I'll get to that in a second. There is no there, but I feel upset. Here's the behavior you just did, and I am upset about it. Okay. So another one can be when you went to play cricket today and forgot to bring something to cricket that you needed in the morning. I had to drive back to the cricket match with that thing and return to where I'm staying. And that took 30 minutes of my time. So now I have a concrete effect. So yes, you called me. Yes, you were playing cricket. Yes, you forgot something. Yes, I had to bring it to you. Right? Now, what I could have said instead was, oh my God, you're so freaking useless. You always forget things. And I had to bring it to you. And because I had to bring it, I couldn't prepare for my call at all. Now, if I say that, he's going to say, I don't forget things all the time. Of course, you had hours to prepare for your call. He's not going to agree with any of the other things that I say. So it's really important that when we're talking to somebody, we have to use really sensory specific information. You said an actual quote, or you did this thing, or I saw ... It has to be very specific, but without all of the adjectives to it, all the description. You did this on purpose. You meant to do that. You're just doing that to hurt me, right? None of those things are going to be in our message, okay? It's really important. Now, when it comes to things that are concrete effects are very specific, which means they can be part of our message, but they don't have to be there. For example, if somebody stays out late and they don't text and they don't call to tell you that they're late, a concrete effect isn't, I was so worried I almost died. That's not a concrete effect. Okay, that's just an exaggeration. It has nothing to do with it. If, on the other hand, you say, I spent 45 minutes calling hospitals to see if you had been in an accident, and that's actually what you did, that's a concrete effect. A concrete effect in my earlier example, I spent 30 minutes round trip delivering the thing that you forgot, and that was 30 minutes that I didn't get to spend on the work that I was doing. That's a concrete effect. Okay? So sometimes, as I said, there's no effect. We're not going to have the effect that's there. Now, the next part of our thing is the feeling statement. So this is another thing that people have an issue with, is we want to use an emotional word, and we can say, I'm feeling this, or I am this, okay? It's not your opinion about the person. I can't say to my husband, when I delivered the items to you that you forgot at the cricket pitch, I feel that you're irresponsible. That's an opinion about that person. That's not what I'm saying. The saying is a feeling that I have, that I'm experiencing. I feel frustrated that I couldn't use that 30 minutes for my own work. That's a feeling. I feel frustrated. Okay. One of the best things for this is for people to use the that test. If I say I feel frustrated, I can't say I feel that frustrated. If I say I feel that you're late, or I feel that you're disrespectful, I have the word that in there. I feel you're disrespectful. If I can put the word that in the sentence, THAT, if I can put the word that in that sentence, then it's an opinion, not a statement. I feel that you are. So we don't want to do that. I feel that's disrespectful. I don't want to say I feel that's disrespectful. Whatever you're doing is disrespectful. I want to say the words, I feel disrespected. There's a difference between those. One of them points a finger at the other person. I don't want to point the finger. I want to point the finger at me. That's why it's called a I message. It's about me. I saw the behavior, and here's how I feel about the behavior. That's really important. All right. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to do one here as an example, and then you're going to have another challenge for you to be able to do one at the as your challenge for this week or this section. All right. So there is a situation. Jolene, we already have a situation with you, with your brother, and the situation with him and taking your mom to the hospital for her appointment, or for the clinic for her appointment. So he says that thing to you about, why don't you get your maid to take mom through the train stations and take it on the train to go to the appointment. So how would you respond to him utilizing this?
So, okay, so it will be like when you ask your request. Can I just say your request?
Yeah.
So, when you request for this, the result is the traveling time for my mom will be more tedious and longer, and I feel it is not safe.
Okay. So first of all, we have the word that in there. I feel that it's not safe. So that's an opinion, not a feeling statement. Cool.
Okay.
So when you ask me to have my maid take mom through the train to her doctor's appointment, okay, so that's what he's done. When that happens, what is the feeling that you had when he asked you to do that?
Immediate problem is, no, the immediate feeling I had is he is not willing to help, not sincere in helping this.
Right, but that's what you believe about him. That's your opinion about him. But what's the feeling you have for yourself?
That is not right. The
Yep.
request is not correct.
Right. It's not correct, right? And how does it make you feel when somebody asks you to do something that's not right?
Emotion.
Yeah.
Angry.
Right. Right. So when you ask me to have my maid bring our mother to her doctor's appointment via the train station, I feel angry. The result will be that she will spend an hour and a half on public transportation, switching trains during her trip, and it will take her a longer period of time than if someone drove her. Okay? Or it will take 45 minutes longer than if somebody drove her. Right? And so when I say it that way, there's nothing he can argue about. He can't argue that he's asking her to go on train. Yes. He asked for the maid to take her. Yes. He asked for the result will be that she will have to change trains. Yes. She will be in the train station for approximately or for an hour and a half. Correct. So all of these things are concrete. She can't argue with any of those things, right? And so when we say, so in this particular example, I said, when you asked for, or when you requested that my maid take our mother on the train to her doctor's appointment, I'm going to say my feeling statement next. I feel angry. The result of your request is ... She will be changing trains twice, will be on the train station for an hour and a half, and right. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to say those things without any sort of adjectives in it. You're being selfish. This is unreasonable, right? We want to be able to do that because we don't want that person to argue with us about it. Okay?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's okay, so I can still feel upset, but I must make it a point that
Well, and what you're saying is, I feel upset. I'm telling you, I'm upset. I feel upset. When you just said that, I feel upset about this.
but yet I don't give him any possibility of arguing back because
exactly. Exactly. Right? So when he sits there and says, oh, you're creating a drama about it, that's because we've used an adjective or adverb, or we've expanded, you're being selfish, blah, blah, blah. That's him saying, oh, it's not specific, it's not factual. And so I'm trying to avoid that person telling me that I'm a drama queen or I'm making a drama out of it, because I'm actually just giving sheer fact. The water on Bukatima was up to my knee when I walked past this intersection. Okay? There's nobody who can argue with that, right? I feel upset, Minister. You have been paid X amount of money in your role. Fact, can't argue with that. Bukatima still floods. Fact, he cannot argue with. Okay? So those are important things. Okay, cool. All right. Stacy, are you ready for your example?
Okay.
Okay. So when your example on your reframe was that your brother said you're not suitable, that's why the universe doesn't give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it that he's referring to that you're not suitable for?
Well, I tried to apply for medical school.
Yep.
Yeah. And I did quite a lot, but I didn't get in. So I was upset that I didn't get in.
Okay, great. Cool. And so his reply to you was, you're not suitable, and that's why the universe doesn't give it to you. Okay, cool. And so if he says that to you, how can you use this statement to reply?
When you say that, when you tell me I am not suitable,
for medical school.
Yeah, for medical school.
I
And
feel-
the universe is not giving it to me.
Mhm.
When you tell me that the universe is not giving
It to me because I'm not
it
suitable.
to me because I'm not suitable, the result is but I don't have a concrete effect.
Awesome, perfect. Leave it out.
Yeah.
Just tell him how you feel about it. So when he said that to you, how did you feel?
Me, I feel like shit.
Okay.
Like, hey, who says I'm not suitable? I mean, maybe I just, I wasn't that persistent. Yeah.
Okay, so when you say that the universe won't give me a get past in medical school because I'm not suitable, I feel like shit.
Mm.
Okay, now if you were to believe that the universe believes that you're not suitable for what is the effect of that you're not
Then the effect is every time I didn't get something, or every time I set out to do something, I didn't get it on the first try, I'm just going to give up.
right? Okay, so remember this other part that we did, this part. So what I want her to do in this particular six is give a reframe to it instead of a concrete effect. So when you say that the universe doesn't believe I'm suitable, that's why I didn't pass the medical test, the medical exam test. The consequence with that belief is that when I try something and I fail on the first time, I'll believe that the universe doesn't intend for me to do it. And I won't try harder. So then we're basically saying to that person, what you've said to me is try once, but never try again. Is that really what you want me to do? That's the communication we have going back to the person. Okay. So instead of having a concrete effect, I'm going to use a combination of these two things as a way of saying a consequence with your belief, this meaning that is this thing. Okay. But I still want to be able to use this part of how I feel. Right. And I might say, I feel put down. I feel rejected. Right. And so then I can say that thing about the fact of consequence of me believing this is that every time I try something for the first time and I don't win or I don't make it, that for what you're saying, it's the universe telling me that I should never try again. And the consequence is that I will stop trying. So that's a really good one that we would want to do. We would want to understand. Okay. So for your assignment, I'm going to have you come up with a different situation that somebody has said to you, that they have said something to you that you're upset about, or they have done something that you're upset about. Okay. So common things that I have given my husband iMessages on. Okay. These are common things. So in Singapore, when I would put all of the clothes out on the line, with all the clips, on the line, and all the clothes are out, my husband would take all the clothes off of the line and then leave all the little clips on the line instead of putting them back in the little basket. So there's a big basket there for all the little clips. And so he just leaves them on the line. But then that forces you to put clothes back on exactly in the same place you put them on before, with the same clip. And not to mention the clips are sitting there in the sun all day long, and then they would deteriorate, and then you have to replace them. And so I was getting really pissed off about this. And so my message to my husband is, when the clips are left on the line, they deteriorate faster over time in the sun. I feel annoyed. Can you please take the clips off? There's my request. So that was the last part, is you can actually make a request for the change to be permanent. I want this thing to change. Other things that I have said to my husband: when you are booking an accommodation for us somewhere, can you please the booking of the accommodation with a separate living area for you to have coffee and tea at 4:00 in the morning when you get up is essential. When you don't book a separate accommodation that has a separate lounge, I feel upset. So these are the kinds of things that I can do for with my husband and give examples for, right? So it doesn't have to be a huge negative situation. It can be something that your husband does that annoys you, something that your children do that annoys you, whatever it is, right? It doesn't really matter. Can you guys hear the airplanes going over me? No, okay. So right now it's like World War II, because there's these old planes. They're called Spitfire planes, and they're literally passing over. There's apparently an air show around me. All right. So the other thing I'm going to tell you before we finish for today is there is a positive way to do this as well. We're going to deliver the same message, but not from a perspective of somebody who does something that annoys you, but something that somebody does that is really cool and you like, and you want to say thank you or say well done or whatever. Now, the greatest thing to do for this is to be able to help someone to avoid what we have called discounting. Does anybody remember what discounting means? Jolene, do you remember what discounting means?
You mean something like when you did something well, but you sort of didn't acknowledge that you did something well.
Yeah, and you say it might have been luck, or you give that credit to your team, or you say, oh, this old thing, oh this, no, it's nothing, whatever, right? That's it's a coincidence. Those are the discounting words. So how do we avoid? We're going to give somebody some feedback and positive feedback, but we don't want them to do that shit on us, right? We want to do something different. Okay. So this is really this is what I teach managers and people from a human resource perspective. So really important from Stacy's job perspective is how I teach managers to give feedback to their staff. So we're going to catch people doing things right, and then we're going to give them this kind of feedback. So we go back to the sentence: when X happens, the result is, and I feel, okay? So Jolene, give me an example of something that someone in your family has done recently that you actually thought was really cool, that you liked, that was great.
Okay, so
They might have helped you with something, or
yeah. So I think it's just yesterday, my youngest, because now one of my helper is back on home leave.
Yep.
So I'm short of one helper.
Right.
And my youngest one sort of step up to do some of the simple things. So yesterday she was, after her own supper, she actually bring the dishes back, and then she actually wash. Usually she would just put it there and walk away.
Yep.
And or usually I will nag her when she start moving those things, but yesterday I did none of those. So I just saw her washing it on her own. So I said, oh, thank you for washing the dishes without me asking you. And I feel you're so uh I can't remember the I feel what, yeah, but I did sort of.
Right.
sort
Okay.
of tell it to her lah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now we're going to do it in here. So here's a child, wash dishes on her own. So when you picked up your dishes from the table and you went to the sink and you washed them by yourself, and put them away or put them on the rack, I feel. So what's your feeling when she did that all by herself? What's the emotion that you have?
I think the immediate one is I sort of feel very proud.
Yes, I feel proud. Right,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So then we go. So when I see that you picked up your when I see you picked up your plates, you took them over, you washed them, I feel proud.
Mm.
So what might be a concrete effect of her doing that for the future?
She's able to do things on her own.
Correct. So, and
So
I can see in the future, you will be able to do things on your own. Done. We're done, right? It's not, we didn't say you are this. We didn't say you should be proud or you did a good job. We said, when I saw this, I felt this way, and I know that you're going to be okay in the future. Cool, right? Done. Okay, Stacy, has there been somebody at work that has done something that was cool or awesome or good, or something that happened around you that you would want to give somebody positive feedback about? Like they helped you do something, or something was just well done, it's well planned, or the strategy was good?
Okay, so like I felt very welcome at my new job. So I had a welcome banner on my desk.
Wow.
Okay,
So cute.
so
Yeah, they are very cute.
okay, so welcome banner on the desk, perfect example. Okay, so when you saw the welcome banner on the desk, how did it make you feel?
They made me feel like they are looking for, they made me feel like, accepted.
Right, I feel accepted.
Yeah,
Right?
it's on my first day, I feel accepted.
Yep.
They are here to help me.
Yep.
To guide me.
Right. Yep. Okay. So when I saw the welcome banner on my desk on my first day, I felt accepted. Right? You don't have to actually put in anything of the rest of it, right? You can just say, I felt accepted. Now, what might be a concrete effect of you feeling accepted from the very beginning at your job?
I mean, a concrete effect. I feel like I am like motivated to learn at my job.
Right, exactly. There you go. So when I saw the banner, welcome banner on my desk the first day, I felt accepted. The result for me is I feel motivated at my job. Done. Right? Done. Finished. Right? And so the thing about it is now that person has a really strong feeling for that. And they can't argue with you about the fact that you feel motivated. They can't argue with you the fact that you feel accepted. They can't discount any part of it. It's awesome. Okay? So that's going to be your second challenge, is you're going to, again, have another experience where somebody has done something positive and you're going to write a praise for them. Okay? So I will send instructions in the email out to you. But that is the thing that we want you to do. Okay? The most important thing for this particular session is that you understand that part of the communication, that you are sending out a piece of message, that it has your own mental programs, your own filter. That person's receiving it through their own filter. So it's unusual that it got there correctly. So that's the rarity that you sent a message and they heard the message exactly the way that you intended it for them to hear it. That's unusual. That's like the very, very rare occurrence. Most of the time, it's going to be miscommunicated in some way. It has to be because of the filters on both sides. So if you go into your communication and experiences like that, like, oh, this is just one of those, another example of filters on both sides. So Jolene, your brother, perfect example of this, right? His filter is like, this isn't a problem. And your filter is like, oh my God, this is such a problem. How could he even consider this not being a problem? Okay. And so if you're in a situation where you go, okay, his filters are different than my filters. I still own the problem though, because I don't want to do it the way he's suggesting. It does make it a bit easier for you to sit there and go, just his filters. It's the way he filters information. He's not an asshole. He's not an ass. He just has filters, and his filters have him think in certain ways. Okay? So Rainey and I have a thing. We have what's called a presupposition that we believe in, and it's people. There's one of them that says people are doing the best they can with the resources they have. So he has certain filters, and he doesn't know that those filters stop him from doing certain things. So another thing that we have is that people are not their behaviors. So his behavior of saying, oh, no, the maid can do it, that behavior is a set of mental programs. It's not the person. So let me ask you a question, Jolene. If your husband had said the exact same thing, is your husband an ass too?
Immediate response is yes.
Yeah. So it's not the person. It's not the person. It's the behavior. It doesn't matter who said it. It doesn't matter who, even if the doctor had said, oh, just send your mom on the MRT with your maid. If the doctor said that, you would still think the doctor was an asshole too, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the behavior that you have a problem with, not the person delivering the behavior. Super important to understand. And just like it is with a work situation, it doesn't matter who did the behavior. So that's why it's called an I message rather than a you message. Because I can talk about the behavior. When someone shows up late for work 5 days in a row, I feel frustrated. Can you tell me about what's happening? That's how I have that conversation, right? I'm going in with a state of curiosity. Can you tell me what's happening? I'm telling them that when somebody does this, not you, when anybody does it, I feel this way. Yeah. So we have that conversation. And I always start with somebody when I'm giving negative feedback in a work situation with, can you tell me about this? Because I don't know what the background is. So let's say, for example, I have a client who is in this situation who shows up late. And he says, when his boss says, what you showed up late this number of days and it has to stop. And he says to her, because she hasn't trained with me, he says to her that he can't do anything about it because his kids have to be dropped off at school at such and such a time, and because of traffic, he's never going to arrive at work on time. Okay? And so the thing about it is for her, it doesn't matter who's late every single day, right? And so if I go into that thing and I say, okay, so when somebody arrives late 5 days in a row, I feel upset. Can you tell me what's happening? And he says, well, my kids need to be dropped off at 7:45. And so with traffic, it's possible to get me here by 8 o'clock. And I go, oh, so what you're saying is there's nobody else in your family that can take your children to school at 7:45, or you can't drop your kids off before 7:45, or there's not a carpool situation available here. So I'm in a situation where as the coach, as the manager, I can say, what is another solution to this problem that gets you what you need, your kids to school on time, and me what I need, you to work on time? How can we get this going? Is this possible? Here's another possibility. What's this other possibility? How else can we think about this and make this work? But the person who is delivering that message, she doesn't have that skill set. So that's what I have to teach her, is how to have that conversation where you don't accept the behavior. We want the behavior to change, and we want it to change permanently. So we're not going to just say, oh, okay, we need a solution to the problem that the person can get what they need and we get what we need.
But isn't that a legit excuse?
A legit excuse?
Yeah, like, I mean, he has to drop off his kids.
He doesn't. He has a wife, right?
His wife is also working? Why his wife
Yeah.
is also working?
Yeah, wife is also working as a teacher in the school.
Oh, I mean, what if the wife is not a teacher
Right.
in the school?
Right, but what if the wife, what about carpool? Is there somebody else that can go on days that you need to be in the office? Can you pick or drop pick the kids up from school and somebody else drop them off? Because I would rather you be gone at 2:30 or 3 o'clock than not be here at 8.
Or can you get up earlier in the morning and then send your kids earlier?
Right. And can the kids be dropped off earlier? Is there an early arrival program at your school? Right? All sorts of things are an option. But this guy is like, no, I'm stuck in this world and I can't get out of it. As a coach manager, as a manager who coaches people, we will not accept X equals Y. I must do this. I have to do this. So therefore, I'm never showing up on time. We're never going to accept that reality. Remember, that's why we are reframing, is because we want to say, so you believe that there isn't a solution to this problem, and I believe that there is. So your aim is to get your kids to school at 7:45, and my aim is to get you in the office by 8. How can we get that to happen? Okay. So those are the things that I'm going to be having as a conversation as a manager who's coaching my person, rather than being assertive and say, you must do this. I don't care how you do it. Or if you're late again, I'm going to punish you. So that's a very powerful, aggressive way of doing it. But I want to have a conversation. I want to be able to find a solution for that person.
What if he stays half an hour later?
Well, and that's the thing, is we have to understand, is that our need? For this particular firm, they have a meeting at 8 o'clock and he's not there. And that's what's causing the problem, right? He's not showing up for meetings that he's meant to be in. So anyway, so that's the scenario. And what we want to do is, as an organization, we have to say, is this important to us? So there's a lot of organizations right now that are having a lot of difficulty with people, probably not in medical areas, but people that want to still work from home, and they're paying an enormous amount of money for a freaking office and nobody's there. And
yeah, because it like doesn't make sense to just come in to see a Teams meeting.
So this is the thing, right? Is so what they're saying to their workers is, get into the office or we're going to fire you. And that's a very aggressive way to do that. So the other question can be is, we need people in the office. Our clients come into the office, they see that the office is empty. That doesn't look good. We need people in the office doing their work. And what do you need? and then we have a conversation about what they need, and then we try to find a win-win solution, right? So that might be hours, that might be days, that might be whatever the solution is. But if we're in a situation where for us it's a zero game, i.e., it's our way or the highway, then it then becomes, this is a component of your employment. If you can't live by this component of employment, we're going to have to go separate ways. But then it's not an assertive, aggressive kind of thing. It's, I understand that these are your needs. Here are my needs, and I'm employing you. Okay. All right. Any questions? Cool. All right. I will send out the email, and next month we have our recap. Okay. So we're going to talk about all of the things that we've talked about. How does it fit in as a whole to creating a more confident you? That's really what the goal always has been and always will continue to be. Cool. So we have one of our participants from last year has completed one of her confident goals. So she had run in the marathon, her first marathon. So she did the what is it called, Standard Charter? Yeah, Standard Charter Marathon in December, and she completed it. And so she had when she left our course, that was her goal, is her big goal that she wanted to do at the end of the course. And she had a structure, she had her resources in place, she had all the things that she wanted to do, and she accomplished it. So, yay! Yeah, so really cool, really awesome.
Yeah,
all right.
It feels very satisfying when we set a goal and then we put in the effort and we don't give up, and then eventually we get it. That arriving to that point, having done all those, it can feel very satisfying, and that really builds a solid internal confidence that we can always fall back to. Because the brain is like, hey, I did that before, and therefore whatever that is in front of them, they can recall the past of that how that feels, how they overcome it. So that stays, you see. So I always feel that the best motivation that you can give to yourself is you doing it, and not, I mean, there's only so much you can do by listening to people's speech, inspiring stories, etc. But that is theirs, it's not yours. But the moment when you create yours, right, then it will stay with you for forever.
Yeah, and she chose something that she had never done before, something that she had no experience in whatsoever. And the thing about it is that when she finished that marathon, it was not easy. The training was not easy. So the next time she comes across something in her life where it isn't easy, she's less likely to back down, because she has it now a example of, oh, look, there was this other difficult thing that I did, and it was painful and it hurt and it was really hard for me to do, and yet I did it. And so she has that example to lean back on and go, yep, I've done this cool thing.
And this is a great example whereby, in this case, right, she chose to go through that so-called difficulties, challenges, adversity. She created those challenges for herself. So it's by choice, whereby for some people, it's life kicks them off, right? So they have no choice, but they have to quickly overcome that and go through the struggle. So in this sense, right, she is building up her resilience in her comfort time, and that strengthened her so much more.
Yeah, excellent point, Rainey.
She has choice. So she don't wait until life kicks her off, but she continues to build that resilience and strength even when she's in the time of comfort. She keeps challenging herself, and therefore that confidence continue to build up. It doesn't stop.
Exactly. All right, everybody, enjoy your weekend. I'll send out an email. Have a great one, and we will see you in February.
Bye-bye.
You haven't announced the date.
Oh, you're right. I haven't announced the date. Oh, and by the way, happy Chinese New Year in advance.
It will be on the 8th.
I have the 8th.
Yeah, 8th.
Yep. 8th, yes.
8th of February, 8 o'clock. Remember to
Yep.
block our calendar, yeah?
We'll see you on 8th.
Y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye.